Hey guys, so we're here to put an epoxy flake coating over this garage floor. It's not in like crazy bad shape, but it's had some use to it for sure. It's got a little bit of wear and tear here from just, the cars dripping on the concrete. I'll pull that tape up. Got a nice little trench drain in there. A little bit of spalling here and there. We'll fix all that up. So the first thing I do when I come in here is, I'm going to get my leaf blower out and I'll just blow out the dust or whatever's in here. And then we're going to grind the floor to clean it and prep it. And then I'll fix those areas with our repair material, so you get to see me do all that stuff. I actually made up my own grinder out of a power trowel, so you get to see how I'm going to use that. I made a base for it. It has some diamonds on it. So I'm going to use that to scratch up the floor, get the surface all ground up and get it clean. Now I'm going to get unloaded and then we'll be back to you. Hey guys, so before I get started in the video, I just want to say if you're new to my channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. All new subscribers will be entered into a drawing to win some Days Concrete gear, whether it's a t-shirt, a hoodie, or a hat. And just let me know down in the comments that you're new by just putting new sub in there. So here's the grinder I made up. I made up that plywood base that would fit right under the blades of the power trowel, and then I have some diamonds underneath there like you would on any type of floor grinder. And just the weight of the power trowel, and obviously it turning is grinding the surface of the floor, cleaning it a little bit for me, scratching it up really good and getting it prepped for the coating. So this garage floor is pretty typical of a lot of garage floors in Maine. After 3, 4, 5 years, maybe even 10 years, they start to see quite a bit of wear and tear because of some salt damage or whatever, some water damage, maybe freeze and thaw damage. And this one was pretty typical. It had some spalling in it, like I said, from just probably the water and salt dripping off cars in the wintertime, soaking into the concrete and then refreezing and popping the surface of the concrete. There was a few little cracks here and there we're going to have to repair, and I'm going to show you how we do all that stuff a little bit later in the video. But the key is at the end of the video, like, you're going to see such a transformation in the way this garage floor looks. You're not going to believe it. It's going to be amazing. And we do actually quite a few of these polyaspartic coatings here in Maine on these garages like this every single year. We do quite a few of them. And then the flakes that we put down, we got probably 10 to 12 different colors of flakes that we do normally that are all on my website. And then if someone doesn't like any of those, they can special order some from the place we buy them at. When we got to charge a little bit more for stuff like that. But if you wanna know like the step-by-step details, you're gonna pretty much see all the steps here. I may not go into too much detail of the steps, but if you really want to know like how to do this, if you're thinking maybe about doing it yourself, I do have a course where I teach people. I got multiple on-the-job trainings, kind of like this one you're seeing right here, where I go into complete detail about how to do every single step, what to look out for, the types of products we use, how to mix them, how to apply them, and all that stuff. The link for that is down in the description below, the epoxy garage floor coating course. And then it's also in the Concrete Underground. If you want to join that, you could do that too. So you can see that's actually working pretty good versus getting on my hands and knees with a 7-inch or a 4-inch hand grinder and having to go over that whole surface. That going over the floor once, I think it took me probably less than 30 minutes, maybe 20-ish minutes to go over that whole thing. Now I could definitely go over it again if I thought it needed it. And the edges, we're going to do all those by hand. But today, I'm just here by myself today just to start the prep. And then, we're going to finish this off in the next day. What we did early this morning was we poured a concrete floor. Then Luke and Darren stayed there. They're going to power trowel that, get it all sawed up. So I just showed up today to get some of this prep started. And you can see I'm using my DEWALT vacuum, and I got a little dust collector there. That works really good. So here we are. We're going to go around the edges. Now, another thing we're going to do with that trench drain is the top of that trench drain pops out you know, the grates pop out, and those were in a little bit kind of what I would say a little rough shape, kind of rusty here and there. We're going to clean those all up and repaint them to make it look like brand new, so when we do the brand new coating on the floor, the whole floor looks brand new and not having some ugly looking grates in there for a trench drain. What's good about using those 4-inch hand grinders like that with the shrouds is you can back the top of that shroud off and use the blade to get right up close to the edges. Now here I'm using my multi-tool with just any old multi-blade in it, and we're cleaning out the saw joints. You can see how dirty, even though they don't really look dirty before I hit them, there's a lot of crap in there that we like to get cleaned out, and then we vacuum them really nice and clean, because we are not going to fill those in with the polyaspartic coating. We'll go over it, like we'll roll over it, but we're not going to fill them completely in and make them go away. On most of the garage floors we do, I say most because some of the really old ones we may fill in and make them disappear, but most of them we'll honor those joints, and then we'll use the multi-tool with like a diamond attachment for it to get into the corners, get into the really tight places. That works really good for doing that, and just cleaning up the floor around those areas, getting it scratched up a little bit. So here I'm going to go over a little bit about how we repair stuff. Now we usually use two different types of repair material. One is just plain old Bondo. We'll mix up, you know, some Bondo. This stuff works really good. But it dries really fast. You got to really get a hang for it. And we'll fill in any little, you know, chips and divots or even some little cracks like this with it, like Darren's doing right now. And we've found, you know, as long as we're coating over it with our coating's fairly thick, this stuff works fine. We've used this stuff for years, doing exactly what we're doing right here. And one of the reasons we like it is, number one, it's not really all that expensive to buy, and it mixes up easy, and it dries really fast. So 15-20 minutes and we can start grinding right over the surface of this stuff. And when we grind over the surface to get the excess off, you know, the whatever we just repaired looks perfect for coating over. Really, we've never really had any trouble with this. And you know, you can go over fairly big spots with this. The other stuff, like the scattered spalling and stuff like that, we got a different repair material we'll be using. But this small stuff like this, really, it's pretty easy. All right, so here's our 2-pot repair material. This stuff dries really fast too, 15-20 minutes, and we're grinding this stuff, and we only mix up a little bit at a time because we've had it start to set right up right in the cup before if we don't dump it out of the cup fast enough. So just a quick mix, and then, you know, we're gonna just dump this on the floor basically and kind of squeegee it around. I'm using more like a big putty knife, but we're just basically filling in all the spalls because there's so many of them, and they're not really that deep. You know, they go maybe an 1/8 to a 1/4 inch deep in some of the worst areas, but this is just probably the fastest way to fill all that stuff in when you got pretty good size area to do. And there was quite a bit of it around. You'll see by the time we get done using this stuff just how much of it we had to use to fill all the little spalling in. It's kind of a little hard to see on the video because they blend in after you grind it. But what's going to be amazing is once this stuff all sets up and we get it ground off, we're going to use the 4-inch grinder basically just to grind off all the excess and grind everything flush with the surface of the concrete. Just how nice this stuff works to repair concrete with. Yeah, that spalling was probably worse, right? You can see that's one side of the car, maybe the front passenger side, I think. And that's usually where the spalling happens the most, is under the bumper area, around the tire area, where just all that stuff either melts off the car in the winter when you drive in, or, you know, obviously it just drips off. It just sits on the floor, and if the floor doesn't really have any protection, you know, if it's not sealed with anything, then the concrete just absorbs all that moisture like a sponge. And if the garage isn't heated, I mean, it's going to get below freezing in there. That stuff will just refreeze right under the surface and pops all that surface paste right off the top of the concrete. And this is what you end up with, a floor with all this spalling. You can see right in the tire area right there. And then Darren's dumping it basically right under where the back bumper would be. It's kind of like squeegeeing around something as liquidy as water. That's how easy it is to fill that stuff in with. What we had to find out at first when we very first started using this thing was just the working time with it. There's really not a lot of working time. The longer you leave it in that cup, the quicker it heats up. So you're better off kind of just mixing up. We mix up 4 ounces of part A to 4 ounces of part B, getting it dumped right out, and then just doing it in little batches like that, and you're not going to waste any. So here it is. This is probably 20 minutes later. It's dry, it's hard, and the deeper areas kind of turn a little bit different color. You can see it's more like yellowy in the deeper areas. The darker areas, most of those darker areas will just kind of grind right off the surface, and that'll end up being flush. And then the diamond, there's a diamond cup wheel on the bottom of that grinder. And it's just, it's slow and steady grinding the stuff off. It doesn't come off too hard, but it's just slow and steady getting it off, making sure you don't create any more divots with the cup wheel, and just getting everything nice and flush and smooth, and just actually more preparation for the coating to bond to. So while I'm grinding this stuff off, Darren usually what he does, Darren's usually the mixer. Like, he'll get his mixing station ready to go. He'll get out all his base coat product. He'll get out all the rolling equipment. We usually use an 18-inch roller, and sometimes a 4-inch or a 9-inch roller for the edges, and then a couple brushes. And then he'll get everything ready to go. So when we do start putting the coating on, we're just bang bang. We measure out how far we need to roll out the base coat for each gallon of product that we use, and I cover all this stuff in the course. How thin or thick you put each coat. How many flakes you need to broadcast and all that stuff. It's all covered in the course, but it's all a process, and there's a learning curve to everything. I break down that learning curve and make it really easy to understand if this is something you're thinking about doing yourself. I do, because I've done this so much, I could probably do this garage floor by myself, but it definitely is easier with 2 guys or 2 people, and sometimes even 3. Now there's Darren just grinding off the Bondo off that crack, and you can see the crack pretty much almost disappears. After he gets it all ground off, it blends in really well. All right, so get everything really super clean. Make sure there's no dust on the floor. A lot of times, even after we vacuum, we got a little leaf blower. We'll take that leaf blower and just hit the floor real quick with that, just to make sure there's no residual dust that the vacuum didn't get. Blow that out, and then we're kind of ready to go here. Like I said, we lifted out the tops of those grates. We got them outside. We cleaned them all. There's that spalling right there. You can see how that filled that in really nice. But we cleaned the top of those grates, and we spray painted them with some Rust-Oleum, so that those look like brand new. We'll put them in just before we do the clear top coat. But that's what a garage floor should look like after it's all prepped. So what I'm pointing out right there is that tape on the wall. And so we measured out the square footage per gallon that this stuff needs to go on, and Darren mixes up a gallon of it, and then we'll coat that area that we got taped off. And that's kind of our guide that we go by. This one had, as you can see, trim all around the bottom edges, so we had to cut all the edges, be really careful. We don't like taping stuff off, because even sometimes when you get some of the base coat onto like blue tape or the green tape, it soaks right through the tape and gets on the trim anyway. So we'll just be real careful cutting it in with brushes and make sure we don't get any, and then we'll just roll those edges like Luke's doing. There's usually two types of base coat we use. One is kind of a tannish base coat, tannish grayish like this one, and then the other one is all gray, depending on the color of flakes we're using. And then we can, if we mix up more base coat than what we need, we usually only put the color in one of the parts, part A, part B. We'll just save that for another job that might use the same color base coat. So Darren's on to his second kit right now. Because there's three of us, we'll get about half of this rolled out like we did right there. Then I'll start broadcasting flakes. If there was only two of us, I'd probably just keep rolling out more of the base coat. Probably at least 3/4 of this, if not a little bit more, before I went back and started broadcasting flakes. But with the 3-person system like we do it, this works pretty good for us. And it takes, like, I'm doing what we call a complete broadcast, a full broadcast. So we're completely covering up the base coat. And that's the one this is basically the one we do the most. I don't like just sprinkling flakes into the base coat here and there and trying to get them to look even. That's actually more difficult. I like the complete broadcast. It actually adds a little more thickness to the coating. Adds a little more durability, I think, and a little bit more slip resistance, if you want to call it that, when you get done putting the top coat on. So I'll just do a full broadcast, and I'll broadcast more probably than what I need onto the surface. And then you're going to see here in a minute, we'll recover what doesn't soak into the base coat, put it back in the box, and we can just use that again on another job. So we make sure that we order plenty of flake when we do stuff like this. Definitely over order. You wouldn't want to run short. And that's what an epoxy or a polyaspartic flake coating will look like once you get the base coat and the flake on right there. That's what you're looking for. So here we are, this is an hour and a half later. Our product we use dries really quickly, cures up really quickly, and then we scrape it to make sure everything's nice and smooth. Those flakes tend to want to stick up any old way when they hit that base coat. So we scrape everything down so it's really smooth. And we do end up recovering quite a bit of flake from that. And we'll just use it again. It's just part of the process. It's what everybody does. So you definitely don't want to leave it just like that. You got to put a top coat over this to protect it. And what I've found is, the trouble with some of these big box stores products is they don't give you enough product. There's nowhere near enough product for the base coat. You got to put it on way too thin. And then there's nowhere near enough for the top coat either. It's just too thin. It's got to go on at a certain thickness. It's called mils. It's got to go on at a certain thickness of mils to really hold up to, the damage or the pounding a garage floor gets, not only from cars but from you working in there, and if you got a tool bench in there or whatever. You can see, I think I showed you a shot of we got the grates back on the trench drain. That looks like brand new now. And then we mix up the top coat, and the top coat goes on actually a little thicker than the base coat, probably almost twice as thick is the way we do it with the product that we use. Nice and clear, very durable. It's not going to pick up from hot tires. It's not going to chip from dropping a hammer on it or nothing like that. Not the stuff that we use. And a lot of that, a lot of the failure in coatings like this is due to the prep. And these people that are telling you that all you need to do is pressure wash, degrease, maybe acid etch the concrete, they're giving you bad advice. You don't want to acid etch the concrete. It's nowhere near enough. It's not anywhere near enough good enough prep for a coating like this to hold up to the abuse a garage floor gets. It won't do it. It'll fail, especially under hot tires. So you really got to grind the concrete the way we did or shot blast it. But we grind everything just the way you saw me do it earlier in the video. The top coat, you can see it kind of darkens the color of the flake a little bit, pops the color a little bit better, and this one's looking really good. If you remember, I'm going to show you a little picture at the end of the video of what this garage floor looked like originally compared to what it looks like now. I mean, it's night and day. It's brand new showroom type garage floor. And I mean, if your garage floor is in kind of rough shape, you want to try to fix it, you don't really know what to do, this is definitely the way to do it right here. This coating is going to last for years and years and years, the way we've prepped this and the way the products we used to do it with. It's just one less thing you got to worry about. You know, salt's not going to bother this anymore, dripping off a car. This is pretty chemical resistant. You can almost drop any type of chemical on it. Although, you know, if you do drop something on it, you're not going to want to just let it sit on there and dry. You are going to kind of want to wipe it up. So here, I'm going to show you, here's what it looked like originally. Remember, look how bad and ugly that garage floor looks up there compared to what it looks like now. Anyway, if you're not a subscriber, hit subscribe now. You get in the drawing for some gear, and we'll check out these two videos right here.